I don't want to go on. I know you don't want to, but you are going to go on. Your mind says you are going to go on. You're going to get there. It is not the end of the world.
If you're laying in your bed right now talking about how bad your life is, stop. Get up and just move. Build a routine. It doesn't have to be hard.
Direction, meaning, purpose, from one point of view, can only be found in finding mental peace. Whatever you do in life, it has to give you mental peace.
Welcome back to the Mulligan Brothers podcast. Today's episode, as always, is sponsored by Huel. I'll talk about these a little bit more later on in the video, but this is the Huel Black Edition that I have been using for the past 3 months now. I think that Huel's had Black Edition ready to drinks out, and it's an absolute game changer. So find out more with a link down below. Let's dive into the video.
We spoke about this before. I think I don't know if people listen to this correctly, and I hope they do. Always a little further.
Yeah. Always a little. It's my mantra every single day, mate. You know, whether that's you going for a run and you don't feel like you want to run, just go for it. Just do it, and you can do it. And that always a little further. It helps me if I'm going to use the running sort of scenario. I'll get up in the morning. I don't have a plan of how far I'm going to run and where I'm going to run, as you probably know. But I'll go out there and I feel I can't justify having done anything until I feel a little bit tired, a little bit worn out. So I'll say, right, okay, I'm going to run 3 miles. I can see the 3 mile turnaround point. I go, all right, I'm going to go 4 miles. I'll go another mile. Then before I know it, I've ran out 6 miles and I've got another 6 miles to run back. So that's that little further. It's always there subconsciously pushing me anyway. But in everyday life, it's just about giving 100%. Just always do your fucking best and try and go that little bit further, like, you know.
I love the idea of, for me, I've had it in a mantra in my head sometimes, and sometimes they're always a little further to me. If I'm
just never giving up.
It's a step, yeah. As long as there's one more step,
yeah,
and then another.
One more inch, one more inch, one more foot, 2 more steps. It's still a little bit further.
But that's if someone had a gun to your head, could you do another step? If you can, you can keep going like that in that way for sure. This is just more of a reality. When it's tough, and it will be tough, don't give up.
Yeah, that again related to the always a little further. Just don't give up. Just keep going. I'll tell you what, because your mind will take you to places where your body don't want to go. You can get to a finish line with a broken leg, in pain. You'll get there as long as your mind says, "I'm going to get there."
I think that's something the military taught you, because
I don't know if the military taught it. It definitely sort of enhanced it.
Because my thought is there's situations you can't give up physically. You're not allowed to give up because
because because the giving up is it's over, done, and that's not an option. That is never an option.
Do you think without facing a situation like that, you know, a situation that the reality is death, could you still tap into that, you know, never giving up no matter?
Yeah, you can. You can. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be all about life and death. It's just about, you know, when you say you're going to do something, do it. Do it. And when your mind says, you know, you've said this, I'm going to do 10 miles, then when you've got an option to give up, it's a weak option when you give up. I can take that giving up option out of the equation. And the option is, I have to finish this. I have to get to that point. Now, whether your fucking feet are blistered, your back is hurting, as you're going to find out, your shoulder feels like one's snapped and the other one's all right, so what? So what? When you get to that finish point, that's when you can address that problem. Let that pain actually drive you on. Think about that pain and don't think about the distance. And then before you know it, you're at the end of the distance. So the mind will take a broken body to a point where, you know, you probably didn't want to go, but you can get there.
I'll get my sister to clip this. I'll have it on repeat. That'll be it.
I'm telling you, it's gonna.
Yeah.
We're like, it's uncomfortable. I don't want to go on. I know you don't want to, but you are going to go on. Your mind says you are going to go on. You're going to get there. It is not the end of the world.
Quitting is not an option.
No,
it's not from the table.
Quitting is death.
Yeah.
That's it. That's quitting. Death. Done. That wasn't your choice. That's God's way of telling you failed.
Yeah.
That ain't happening. Not today, Satan. It is. It's true. It fucking hurts. You know, I ain't going to say my missus. I'm not running anymore. That's it. You had that choice. You can do it. You just don't want to do it. And that's it. You can fucking do that. But when you want to improve and grow and build resilience, you've got to go. That pain comes with it. That pain is the foundation, the mortar to becoming a better person and achieving better things.
Love that. That's a great quote.
It's true. It's absolutely true, mate. If it's easy, it ain't worth it. It's not a challenge, is it? It's not worth it.
The growth is in the pain. The growth is in the suffering of the task.
And then you know what? You get to the end, you achieve what you wanted to and more, and you feel great about it. Yes, you're still blistered. Now you can't walk because you're blistered. So what? It's only a passage of time. They'll heal up in no time.
What's that moment like? Because finishing a tough run, a mission that you sat there, you're blistered, your body's still humming from all the.
Mate, when I finished, the last thing you do on the hills phase of selection is basically long haul, is it called? Endurance. It's called endurance. It's about 60 miles, wherever it is, and you're carrying a fucking house on your back. And before I even started it, my knee was out here. I thought, I ain't gonna be able to do this. And I could quite easily have gone, I ain't gonna do it, because the damage I might do at the end of it, could fuck me up forever. But I wanted to do it. I knew I wanted to do it, and I thought, fuck it, I'm gonna take that risk. I'm gonna take that pain. I'm not gonna make that an excuse not to do this. And then by the time I finished it, my knee was almost the size of my waist. I did it in fast. I did it in a fast time because it was hurting so much, and I knew the quicker I do it, the quicker this pain's going to stop. So the pain hurt me more, and I went faster. And I remember, there was two of us did it in a real ridiculously fast time, but I did it because of the fucking pain I was in, and I wanted to do it. I was going to I was going to tie that leg up behind my ass and drag myself across it. I wasn't going to give up. I don't care. Because I knew I'll find the time. I'd rather got to the end and done it and then be told, unfortunately, you can't go on to the next phase because you're fucking so badly hurt. I'll deal with that next. I want to get to that fucking end point. My mind says I want it, and I wanted it. I wanted it in my heart to say to myself, I'm going to finish this. I could have quite easily, and no one had ever questioned me because you could physically see my knee was fucked. But I just did it. I just fucking went, and it was fucking hurting. And I spent more time moaning about my knee. I knew as I'm moaning, that's another kilometre under the bag, that's another kilometre, another moan. And then me, I'm on at the end of it, it's only 14 hours. Hey! And then I was like, for the rest of the weekend, get out. In absolute agony. Honestly, I could stand up, you fall over. But I thought, how come I didn't fall over those mountains? Because I didn't want to fall over. I could quite easily have done. And literally at the end of it, the next morning, trying to get my shorts over the top of it. And I'm like, and I went to stand up and I'm falling over. I can't stand up. And I thought, thank fuck. Because then my mind had already said, I don't have nothing to achieve today. You've done it. But my mind said, I want to get to the end.
People talk about morning routines all the time, but in terms of the morning routine or routine being at the cornerstone of taking that extra one step every single day and trying to be better every single day, I've not heard that before. And that creating that structure in someone's life. And I think it's just perfect advice. For men especially struggling with mental health, just create a routine that you can stick to and start, building on it, make it better. And the exercise thing as well, just having something to improve yourself every single day, measurable, little by little. But it's hard to get that message to people.
It is. And a lot of people, they want a quick fix. They want to take a pill and make it happen. Mm-hmm. It's not going to. And a lot of people, they set these goals that are so unrealistic, you ain't going to make them. You don't have the discipline to pull it off. And I know it's nice to hope and want and wish, it ain't going to work. Why don't you set a goal you can actually maintain? Like, let's go to bed at the same time every day for 7 days. Let's wake up at the same time every day for 7 days. Just do that. Let's add a 20-minute walk in after dinner. Let's add in one before you go to work. Now let's see what's realistic. Now, inside of your life structure, can you add a morning routine that has fitness before you go to work? No, because of this, and this. I tell you to find a little gray area, find a little buffer. Maybe you go to bed earlier, maybe you wake up earlier. There's something you can do just for you that makes you exponentially better without a lot of effort. And a lot of it is micro wins. I'm trying to stack up as many micro wins as humanly possible. Did I wake up at the same time that I was supposed to? Yep. Did I get my fitness in? Yep. Did I get a cold plunge in? Yep. 20-minute walk? Yep. Protein shake? Yep. Diet in check? Yep. Did I make my first meeting? Yep. That's 6 things before 10 a.m. I've done that 7 days a week, every day for 5 years. Pretty good, man. That's pretty repeatable. Do I do a 20-minute walk after dinner every night? Yeah, every night. That's pretty repeatable. I can knock that out. Do I take a shower every night? Yeah. So why couldn't I do a walk? If I'm not going to do a walk, do I take me and my wife and go on the front porch for 10 minutes? 10 minutes, just you and me. Like, it's pissing down rain. The kids are going to watch the movie. Let's just get 10 minutes, you and me. Let's make it a routine every single night. 10 minutes, 5 for you, 5 for me. Data dump whatever's going on in your life. Send it to me. Right? Like, you can build a reasonable routine that only makes you, it builds a bond with your partner, whatever it's going to be. But people don't want to just line it out. They want to turn over. They want to listen to a Joe Rogan podcast or Andrew Huberman and go, oh yeah, it'll work for me too. They're so disciplined. And if you don't break that down in manageable chunks, you'll never do it. And now it'll be another loss column. Oh yeah, I tried keto, it didn't work. Oh, I tried this, it didn't work. I say it with diet all the time. Best diet in the world is the one you'll actually stick to. Doesn't matter what it is. That can be keto, that can be vegan, that can be whatever you want it to be. If you'll actually stick to it, that's the best diet for you. No different than that morning routine. Life has such a big physical component over it, and that's why I push it so much on military, police, firemen, just overall every day. Because to me, life is about processing information. Whether that be conflict, that could be navigating human terrain at the grocery store, it could be whatever it is. The better off I am physically gives me more options. I can process more information because there's no physical taxation to me processing that. Because if there is, I can already solve it. If there's a physical element in it, I don't even know what it is, I can pretty much get through it. Because I'm honest. There's not many things physically that I can't grind my way through. I got to jump on this, I got to push that, I got to pick this chip. I can do all that. If anybody else can do it, I can reasonably do it. And I think most people can, especially if you put forth just a little bit of effort, and the confidence that comes from that is really the key to mental health. It's stop feeling like a victim, and I say that to everybody else too. If you're going to talk about mental health from a fetal position, stop. Stop. If you're laying in your bed right now talking about how bad your life is, fucking stop. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to hear you from there. If you're going to talk about mental health, get up and do it in the grocery store. Get up and go interact with people. Say it to them out in town. Get up and just move. Build a routine. Wake up, drive your car 15 minutes, go sit at Starbucks and drink a coffee inside the restaurant. Do that. Just watch people interact. It pulls people out of depression. They don't want to listen to it. Like, I want to be alone. I know you do. That's why you've had this depression for 20 years. Get out and move. Be around people and see everybody's doing the same thing you are. And not a lot of people just want to put in that work, or they don't want to hear the real truth. The real truth is that everybody's got some stuff going on, man. Everybody. Just be open and share it.
It's funny, people like complicated morning routines, and they like to look at this magical morning routine that's all the bells and whistles. And I think a large portion of that is because if it's unreachable, then they don't have to do it. You know, there's some of that in it. But then also is they do, like, they look at, like you say, like Huberman or Joe Rogan or somebody like that, and or yourself even, and they'll look at these routines and not realize that you built that step by step for a long time to eventually get there, and it fits your lifestyle. And it's not for everyone, but it doesn't mean that you can't have your own routine. I think what's lovely about your routine is part of it is a 20-minute walk. Most people can do that. But then, you know, some of the stuff in the gym that you're doing maybe is a little bit more difficult for some people. Maybe they need to build up to that. But yeah, I think people are looking for a magic answer, and they look towards people who have these amazing routines and think, though, that's why they're so successful. Not because they built it up tiny little bit every single time and eventually arrived at this routine. And they're looking at the results rather than the thing that got them the results. I mean, we spoke about that today a few times.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier. Like, I've been on the same morning routine since 2003, 4. Pretty much the same thing. I wake up at the same time, go to the gym the same time, pretty much eat the same meals. I've been drinking that same protein shake for 14 years. Like, it's my routine because I adopt it because it works. And I structure my day around it. So and that's what people talk about, is if my day were to shift, my routine were to shift. If I were to adopt graveyard shift, and now my mornings are really at night, my whole routine would shift to adopt that. When we go overseas, it's the same thing. Everything just shifts because it's not manageable. I'm not going to wake up at 4 a.m. if I'm not going to work until 2:30. That doesn't make any sense. I shift my entire day so I can get my full benefit. And a lot of that is because guys, especially, are sacrificial in nature. You're never going to take time for yourself. Never. You can't take a vacation. You can't go to a men's retreat. You can't do this. You can't do that because you got to provide. You got to raise kids. You got to be a good husband. You got to do this. You got to do all the other things. And before you know it, you've let yourself go. It's been 10 years. You can't draw me a diagram of the inside of your local gym. You don't golf anymore. You don't play pickup basketball with your buddies. You don't do anything. You don't have time. You don't make the time. Like, before you do that, you'll be on the wrong side of 50 and it's over for you. Like, I don't want that for anybody. You're just trying to optimize your morning routine to give you the most bandwidth so when you do get home, now I can be a full-time dad. I can be a full-time husband because I'm not trying to compartmentalize or trying to juggle all these things at simultaneous times. If I have a purpose-built routine, then I can tailor it to what I need. I don't have time to do full fitness. What am I doing? 20-minute walk in the morning fasted. I'll wake up an extra 10 minutes early and I knock out a walk before I go to work. Easy. The average person can walk a mile in 20 minutes. I do it 3 times a day. 3 miles a day, 20 miles a week. Anybody can do that. Like, it doesn't have to be hard.
It's life-changing, though. It really is. It's just having that structure.
I did a talk for some guys not too long ago, and I told them if I could give everyone in the room a singular gift, it'd be the power of that 20-minute walk, especially if you're married. Especially if you're married. Just walk. Like, literally, walk out of your driveway and walk 10 minutes in one direction, you and your wife, and turn around and come back. 10 minutes down, floor is hers. 10 minutes back, floor is yours. The best thing you've ever done, man. It'll help you digest your food, set circadian rhythm, you'll get better sleep, kickstart your metabolism, and it'll actually give you guys 10 minutes to speak instead of being on your phones. Just go. Tell your friends. Take a buddy. I mean, that's why I force the guys to do it. Do the 20-minute walk, man. It's only going to help you. I mean, if you sit outside of our shop, you'll see them. Everybody does them. They'll all go out on lunch breaks. All 15 people, big 20-minute walk. But it's good. It allows them to sync up. It gets them outside. And it really helps with mental health. And job's stressful, man. Work is stressful. If you don't take time for yourself, you'll never find it. Sometimes you just got to make it.
On the idea of love, I think a lot of people have these overwhelming feelings towards somebody. And because they feel it so intensely, they're like, this feels like it's enough. Even though it's not shown through respect or action to the other partner, they feel because these emotions are so strong, it's enough. Which I think kind of plays into somewhat what we spoke about around narcissism and having these, this idea in your head. I'm curious as to just coming back to the idea of narcissism and where do you think it grew from? Do you think it's something that is more prevalent at the moment through including social media and the want and desire for things and the want and desire for stuff for yourself at all times?
It didn't happen by itself. It's almost 100 years of brainwashing. Hollywood. All of life has become Hollywood. We don't live real lives, we live Hollywood lives. And Hollywood's message is, love is everything, and you deserve everything, and you need to have everything. We have been fed this message, bombarded from all directions. Life on Earth is Hollywood now. It's not real life. So no, love is not going to keep you together. And it's not all you need. That's Hollywood. And no, you don't need this car, and you don't deserve this car. These are all fake brainwashing messages to get you to buy stuff. That's all it is. And in the meantime, it completely destroys your moral fiber. How sick is it to say, if I love you, you are the most important person in the world. If I stop loving you, you're nothing. Is that frighteningly disturbing? Your value depends on my loving you? That's dangerous. It's dangerous. Romeo and Juliet. If I can't have you, oh, that's not narcissism. It's terrible. So all these beautiful shows, these beautiful movies and television shows, full of love, it's so toxic. It's such poison. Have you ever heard the word intimacy mentioned in any of these books or movies? Or ever hear the word respect? Disrespect, yes. Oh, you disrespected me. But who respects anybody? Nobody. It's frowned on. Nobody respects. That's not even acceptable. Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Just, I wanted to go into some practical steps, into some of the things we've just spoken about. What practical steps would you take to finding the right person to get in a relationship with?
Step number 1. Do you have a life? When you ask someone to marry you, you're asking them to step into your life. Do you have a life? No, we'll ride off into the sunset and make a life together. No, you won't. You're going to start depending on each other, then being disappointed in each other, and then blaming each other for not having a life. Before you ask someone to join you, you got to have something to join. What is your life? That's the first compatibility issue. Does she want to share the life you have or envision? If she doesn't, then forget about it. Are you going to give her the life she's expecting to have? If not, forget about it. Love is not bigger than life. So not love first and then we'll figure out life. No. That's childish. Secondly, if you're going to get married, as a man, you have to stop being a man and become a husband. And as a woman, you have to stop being a woman and become a wife. People get married without any intentions of being husband and wife. Just a man and a woman. Because of Hollywood. There's no glamour in being a wife. They destroyed it. There's certainly no glamour in being a husband. There's agony. There's sacrifice. You know, some of the movies are, husband and wife sacrificing for each other. So yeah, there's a lot of cost, but no benefit to being a husband or being a wife. So husbands and wives find each other indispensable. You're not a good husband without a wife. But you can be a healthier man without a woman. You can be a healthier woman without a man. So as a man and a woman, you really don't need each other. Men don't need women. That is such a shocking statement. But it's so true. Take Hollywood out of the picture. It's so true. A man does not need a woman to be a man. None. In fact, if there's a woman in his life, it complicates his life. He's got to adjust. He's got to not be such a man. A woman without a man in her life is so much healthier. Just a woman, free to be a woman. So a man and a woman should not be in a relationship because they're going to destroy each other. A husband and wife, that's amazing. So if you don't intend to become a husband, don't get married. Don't abuse women, because you're going to. Using women is the same as abusing. The third thing is the respect. Don't lower your standards at home. Have higher standards at home. Standards of respect, standards of decency, standards of dignity. Don't lower your dignity, not to your wife. You lower your dignity, it makes it harder for her to respect you. If she can't respect you, she doesn't really love you. If she doesn't really love you, you're going to hate her.
I hope you're enjoying this video so far. Today's video, as always, was powered by Huel. Huel has been an absolute game changer for me and my life. I love drinking their Black Edition. They're ready to drink. It has 26 vitamins and minerals, 35 grams of protein, and slow release carbs. When I know that I can just reach into my bag and grab a bottle of Huel on the go, it has changed my life. And as I'm training for the world's heaviest marathon right now, where I lift 220 pounds of weight for 26.2 miles, and then I do 450 miles with 70 pounds on my back, Huel has been my go-to fuel. Don't just take my word for it. The hardest geezer who ran the length of Africa also downs a couple bottles of Huel whilst he's on his run. So if you want to join someone like Hardest Geezer, or if you've just got a busy life in general, Huel can be an absolute game changer. Head to the link in the description where you can find out more about Black Edition and other products of Huel, and some exclusive offers down below. Thank you to Huel for sponsoring the video. Let's dive back into the episode.
One thing that's really stood out for me is purpose, because we speak about it quite a lot. And I think I was curious as to, is the path to happiness through finding purpose through faith, teachings, religion, or can you find purpose outside that box? You know, through an endeavor to help people or serve people in a different way?
Yeah, great question. I think before we get into it, I'd like to also stress that the ordained path is not for everybody, and that it's not like Buddhism, and especially our school of Buddhism, it's not exclusive. You know, to practice a spiritual path or Buddhist spiritual path, you don't have to follow the ordained way of life. You can still dedicate yourself to a spiritual path, but your training is different. This is the training of what we would call union, like the union of life, like normal life, and spiritual development. And if you were going to take that path, you would want to use your experience of daily activities, work, relationships, raising the kids, dealing with the stresses and strains of life as your training ground for training your mind. And that's completely possible and is a great part of our tradition as well. In fact, one of the most loved teachers in our tradition is not a monk. You might have seen on the front of the building, but these big posters, because we have a senior teacher coming, our teacher from New York City. Maybe you guys can check him out the next time you're here. He's one of our most senior and most loved teachers, but he's not a monk. He's what we would call a lay practitioner. But in terms of your question about purpose, meaning, direction, I think you sort of hit the nail on the head. Like there's two aspects to spiritual development, I believe, give your life purpose and direction, meaning. One is the quest for happiness, which we touched on already. You know, like according to Buddha, every single living being, including insects and animals, have the principal wish to be happy all the time. And in every decision that they subsequently make, is informed and motivated by this wish. So everything we do in life is motivated by, I want to be happy. And some people might argue, well, you know, sometimes I do things I don't want to do. But when you do things you don't want to do, you're motivated by the consequence of not doing it. But it's still related to the overall wish, I want to be happy. Like, you know that if you don't do this thing, consequently, it's going to affect your happiness in some way. And so it's interesting, you know, like if you feel that you've found in life the thing that makes you happy and that motivates you, the quality of what you do is up here. But if you're motivated by the consequence of not doing it, the quality is down here. Like if you think of a job that you hate, how well will you do that job? You will do it enough that you won't get fired because you fear the consequences of losing your job, which will affect your overall happiness. But if you feel that that job is where you get your happiness, then you will put your whole heart into it. So there's a sort of psychology of life that begins with this aspiration, I want to be happy. And I guess from a spiritual perspective, either as a layperson or as a monk or a nun, it's the psychology of a spiritual practitioner is built entirely on this wish. And so what Buddha is saying is any subsequent wish that is in any way at odds with your principal wish, you're going away from the meaning of your life. And if your subsequent wishes and actions, activities are in line with your principal aspiration to be happy all the time, then you're finding the meaning of your life. You know, once I was teaching on this in Australia, and in Australia, it wasn't uncommon for people to a little bit heckle or shout stuff out, which was sort of part of the challenge and the fun of it and the journey. In Britain, everyone's much more well behaved. Anyway, there was one guy who said, oh, well, I found the path to happiness because I found surfing. And he's like, well, surfing makes me happy, therefore it's in line with my wish to be happy. So I found a path. And I'll come back to that. And there was another guy I met that played rugby league. And he said, rugby league is a true source of happiness because I'm never happier when I'm running up and down the pitch with a ball. That's me, that's my place, that's my source of happiness. And so on the surface, it looks like, yeah, they found direction and meaning. But in a more profound way, if we go a little bit more subtle, actually they've not found the meaning of their life. They found really the very thing that's ultimately going to make them vulnerable. Like just with the guy with the rugby ball, with the rugby league guy, if he believes that playing rugby is the only source of his true happiness, then the more he's running, the happier he should become. But if I was running after him with a cattle prod, saying, no, don't slow down because I want you to be happy, the time would eventually come that the running itself would start to cause him first fatigue, and then physical pain, then agony, and then maybe even death, you know. And as well as that, if he maintains the belief that the true source of his happiness is running on a pitch, when he reaches old age, he's going to enter a severe depression because the one thing that brings him joy will start to be pulled away from him. And so when you really analyze these things, same with the surfing guy, when you really analyze these things, actually, these are not truly giving them direction in life. They're leading them into a cul-de-sac because ultimately these things will be what hurts them. So finally, and of course you could argue that I'm biased because I've dedicated my life to the Buddhist path, but finally I believe you have to say, if it's true that happiness is pleasant mental feelings arising from inner peace, then direction, meaning, purpose, from one point of view, can only be found in finding mental peace. Whatever you do in life, it has to give you mental peace. And then another thing that you touched on, and this is the second part to this, is about altruism, like trying to help others or trying to care for others, have compassion. Once we start to understand the meaning of happiness and the meaning of suffering, which we haven't really spoken about too much so far, but once we start to understand the meaning of happiness, and we start to see how people are making so many mistakes about happiness, and these mistakes are often leading to addiction, depression, and all kinds of other problems in their life, if we can then start to become a guide for others, like dedicate our life, that doesn't necessarily mean interfering. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that I would walk around Leeds and say, all right, mate, you look miserable. You've probably got wrong aspirations. But in our heart, we start to become motivated to be the best person we can for the sake of guiding others to happiness. It may be that you have very little opportunity to put that into practice, like to actually help people. Those opportunities may become maybe few and far between, but you still find purpose in trying to become that person. And if you feel like, if you start to think, well, all right, I need to be out there helping people, then you've slightly lost the aspiration, because you've already allowed yourself to become dependent. But if in your heart, again, this is coming from the point of a Buddhist monk, but if in your heart you're training yourself in inner peace and training yourself to find that peace for the benefit of all other living beings, there's no doubt that sooner or later those opportunities will come. But when they come, you're already in the right place to help, as opposed to thinking I've got to be out there fixing everybody, because that in itself is a dependency.
We spoke about the venturing into sharing some of your messages online and stuff like that. And one of the videos that you did was around the men's group. Mm-hmm. The conversation around that, I mean, how many, was it a couple of years back now?
It was not this past January before that.
And it was about, men being men. Obviously it's such an interesting subject right now to have, a conversation to have right now. I'd love to hear, more of your thoughts on it.
So one of the things that God has given me, He's given me such a strong passion to work with men, because that is the weak point in our country today. I think it's a weak point in even churches today. I mean, I was raised in a broken family. I didn't have a dad in my life. Young people who are raised by a single parent, most times a mama, they are more likely to get in trouble. They are more likely to go in prison. This is not just assuming. You can look at the statistics. I don't have it in front of them, but you can look it up easily. They are more likely to get in trouble. They're more likely to go to prison. They're more likely to commit murder. That's a fact. And what I'm doing is I have a very strong men's ministry. That's one of the things I'm pouring a lot of energy in these days. And I'm teaching men that you are to your family, you're the pastor of your home. You're the protector, you're the provider, and you're the pastor of your home. That doesn't take a single thing away from the woman. My mama was one of the greatest women ever walked on this earth in my worldview, what I believe. She was wonderful, and I couldn't have made it without her. So I don't want to take anything away from the women. By the way, Christianity builds women up, but I believe God has called men to step up and be what they ought to be real men. I think a man ought to be able to provide for his family, he ought to protect his family, and he ought to be the pastor of his home. And so that's what I teach my guys here. And I think it's very, very important, because they'll make a big difference in their life. That boy, that little bitty old boy, when he's this big, he's looking at the dad as the leader of the home, and he needs to be that guy that steps up for that boy. And my grandchildren, they look at me like that, and they look at their dads like that. And so we don't want to let them down. And I think we cross things up whenever men are just grown-up boys that come in and get what they want, and then they're gone and leave mama to raise all the children herself. My dad, when he left, he didn't give us any support after. We didn't even know where he was for the first 2 years that he left. I mean, he just was gone. And that's just wrong. It's wrong. And really the only thing that my dad, I was 12 years old when he gave me my first bottle of Jack Daniels, you know, and sit and drink with me. I snorted cocaine with him when I was 18. And you know, I mean, that's what I got. And we never saw him hardly at all. But when I did, that's what I got. But if a man will just realize God put you there to help raise these children, to show them how, especially the boys, how to be a man. What does he show his daughter? How a man ought to be to you. A man is in the family to teach the daughter what kind of man you should be looking for. You're looking for a man that is a protector, a provider, and a pastor of the home. And that's what I believe a man ought to be.
Well, I mean, what do you see the weaknesses in men, especially in the US today? Like, where do the issues lie?
You know, there's a lot of good guys out there, but in the weaknesses, the big thing is men act like boys. They play too much, they got too many toys, and they don't care enough about their family. That's being harsh, that's being straight. And I think that if we can get the men to understand that they are here for a reason, they have a purpose, and they're going to give an account for the purpose whenever it's all said and done. And you know, the Bible talks about how the sins of a father is passed down to his children. And so when you look at my life, because of the way my dad went, my life was heading down that trail. And when a man spoke to me about God, and I was able to catch what he's saying and gave my life to Christ, suddenly I realized what I was seeing there was not the right way, not from my father, but there's a better way. And I think that men today, they carry themselves with no responsibility to the family. Let the wife take care of the kids. Let the kids take care of the kids. But when a dad steps up and says, you know, when the dad is leading, when the dad is correcting and directing and setting the example, the kid has so much better opportunity to be something and do something. And I ain't saying everybody comes from a broken family ain't going to accomplish anything. I'm just saying they sure do stand a better chance when they got a man as a dad they can look up to as that hero, you know. And that's what boys do when they have a dad that's a good dad that they really admire and look up to him. And he changes generations. When you're a good, decent man, carry yourself with responsibility, you do the hard work, you do the hard thing. You know, a good man makes decisions not because they're easy, but because they're right. A good man does what's right. Does this apply to women? 100% yes, but we're talking about men.
Wow. So, I mean, so the movement today where these men or young, you know, I think calling them boys older boys is probably like a good way of describing some guys. When they're looking to go on this journey, it can be quite treacherous as well. That, you know, they can end up getting shunned down for even trying to just bend into their masculinity. And I mean, what's the advice to those guys, like to become a real man without upsetting the masses or the people around them?
He ain't got to worry about upsetting anybody. You know, if you live your life saying, look, I've got really one responsibility, and that is to be who God created me to be. He created me to be a man. I need to be a man. Now, being a man don't mean I'm able to bite off the end of a beer bottle. Being a man means I need to bite off what it takes to be what I ought to be in my family, to show my children what real love is, to teach them how to live their life, to hold them accountable. God didn't call me to be friends. God didn't call me to be best buds with my children. He called me to be a parent, to love them, to direct them, to take care of them, to enjoy them. I'm friends with all of my children. But first is the responsibility I have of showing them the right way to live. So being a man is not if I have the fastest car or the biggest truck or the fastest horse, or that's not a man. It doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. Being a man is you take that responsibility that God's given you to be that man. And if the masses say, oh, that's just that toxic masculinity nonsense talk, I don't care. I don't care what anybody out there says. I care what he knows. And I want to do what he's called me to do. He created men to be men, and support the wife as she disciplines, he disciplines. And discipline, I got a problem with beating on children. I don't see that. But I do see setting the example, sitting down with the children, loving them. You know, you can lead somebody with love a whole lot better than you can force. I want to follow Jesus, not because I'm scared he's going to send me to hell, but because he loves me. What got me more than anything is how he loved me. So if I want to be a good man, then I should love my wife and I should love my children. And when I do that, I set the example. It makes everything a whole lot more fluid and works better. It's a whole lot easier, softer, better. But there's times when you got to stand up. There's times whenever something's going on in the family and it's wrong and it's fixing to veer off. Man has to step out in front of the car and say, stop. We ain't going there. And he has to stand like a man. That's what he needs to do.